Perhaps he was a scholar of the previous divine scriptures, and he recognized you. He said, "You are right." After that he met Maysara in private and said, "Maysara, he is indeed a prophet. I swear by the one in whose hands is my soul, he is the same one mentioned by our monks in our books." Maysara remembered his words. On the way, another incident occurred. Two of Sayyidah Khadijah, Radhiyallahu anha's camels had become extremely tired and could not walk any further. Because of them, Maysara lagged behind the caravan. The Prophet ﷺ was at the front of the caravan. Maysara, worried about the camels, ran to the front and informed you about his concern. You came with him to the camels, placed your blessed hand on their backs and hindparts, and recited something. As soon as you did this, the camels were healed and began moving so swiftly that they soon reached the front of the caravan. They were even making joyful sounds and showing great enthusiasm in their walking. Then the caravan members sold their goods, earning a profit greater than they had ever seen before. Maysara said to you, "O Muhammad, we have been trading for Sayyidah Khadijah, radhiyallahu anha, for years, but we have never made such an extraordinary profit as we did this time." Finally, the caravan set off back toward Makkah. During this journey, Maysara observed that whenever it was hot and the Prophet ﷺ was on his camel, two angels would provide shade over him to protect him from the sun. Because of these extraordinary sights, love for the Prophet ﷺ deeply settled in Maysara's heart, and he felt as though he had become a devoted servant. The Prophet ﷺ arrived in Makkah at midday, ahead of the rest of the caravan. He went straight to the house of Hazrat Khadijah, radhiyallahu anha. She was sitting with some women at that time. From a distance, she saw the Prophet ﷺ riding his camel with two angels shading him. Hazrat Khadijah radhiyallahu anha showed this scene to the other women, and they were all astonished. The Prophet ﷺ then narrated to Hazrat Khadijah radhiyallahu anha the details of the trade and informed her about the profits. This time, the Prophet was double what they had earned before. Hazrat Khadijah radhiyallahu anha was very pleased and asked, "Where is Maysara?" The Prophet ﷺ replied, "He is still on his way." Upon hearing this, she said, "Please go to him at once and bring him to me as soon as possible." The Prophet ﷺ left immediately. Hazrat Khadijah radhiyallahu anha had sent him for another reason. She wanted to witness once more whether the angels would still be shading him. As soon as the Prophet ﷺ departed, she climbed to the upper part of her house and watched him. She saw the same scene again, confirming that her eyes had not deceived her. A while later, the Prophet ﷺ returned with Maysara. Hazrat Khadijah radhiyallahu anha then spoke to Maysara, "I have seen two angels shading him. Did you see such a sight as well?" In response, Maysara said, "I have been seeing this scene since the caravan departed from here for Syria." Maysara then narrated the incident of his meeting with Nastura and also shared what the other man had said who had asked him to swear by Lat and Uzza. He also mentioned the incident with the camels. After hearing all these accounts, Sayyidah Khadijah radhiyallahu anha paid the Prophet ﷺ double the agreed upon wage. The agreed wage was already double that of what other people received. Sayyidah Khadijah radhiyallahu anha was deeply amazed by everything she had heard. Then she went to meet her cousin, Waraqah bin Nawfal, who was a scholar of the previous scriptures. Sayyidah Khadijah told him everything she had witnessed and what Maysara had recounted. At that time, Waraqah bin Nawfal was a Christian. He had previously been a Jew. After listening to everything, Waraqah bin Nawfal said, "Khadijah, if these things are true, then know that Muhammad is the prophet of this nation. I have come to understand that he is the awaited prophet of this nation. The world has been waiting for him, and this is his time." It should also be noted that the Prophet ﷺ did not make only one trading journey for Sayyidah Khadijah radhiyallahu anha. He made several other trips as well. Sayyidah Khadijah radhiyallahu anha was a noble and pure woman. In terms of lineage, she was the highest among the Quraysh. She was known as the Lady of the Quraysh. Many people from the tribe wished to marry her. Numerous young men had sent her proposals, but she had not accepted any of them. When the Prophet ﷺ returned from the trade journey, Sayyidah Khadijah Raziallahu anha was greatly impressed by his qualities and his words. Therefore, she sent a woman named Nafisa bint Munya to approach him. Nafisa came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, "If a wealthy and virtuous woman offers herself in marriage to you, would you accept?" Hearing this, the Prophet ﷺ asked, "Who is she?" Nafisa immediately replied, "Khadijah bint Khuwaylid." The Prophet ﷺ agreed. Nafisa bint Munya then returned to Sayyidah Khadijah Raziallahu anha and informed her about everything. Sayyidah Khadijah Raziallahu anha then notified her uncle, Amr ibn Asad, so he could come and perform the marriage. Sayyidah Khadijah Raziallahu anha had been married twice before. Her first marriage was to Hala ibn Zurara, with whom she had a daughter named Hinda. After Hala's death, her second marriage was to Abu Hala. Following Abu Hala's death, Sayyidah Khadijah Raziallahu anha lived as a widow until she decided to marry the Prophet ﷺ. At that time she was around 40 years old. Her uncle, Amr ibn Asad, arrived, and the Prophet ﷺ also came with his uncles. There are different narrations regarding who performed the marriage ceremony. One narration states that it was conducted by his uncle Abu Talib. The amount of the mahar, dower, also varies according to different narrations. One says the mahar was approximately 12 uqiyah, while another mentions that he gave 20 young camels as mahar. After the marriage, the Prophet ﷺ hosted a walima feast, during which he slaughtered 1 or 2 camels for the meal.